Welcome to the podcast with Kylie Nichols. I made the unlikely transition from stay-at-home mom to CEO of Nickel & Suede, a leading multi-million-dollar fashion company. At Nickel & Suede, we empower the everyday woman to step into her story more boldly, one life-changing accessory at a time. The goal of this podcast is to inspire you through my story and the stories of other powerhouse women to live the best version of your life. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, and get ready to get started with Kylie Nichols. Hey guys, happy Friday. I am excited to be back today and so glad we have a guest. Today I have Jennifer Allwood with me and I'm just thrilled to have her.
I'm thrilled to be here, girl.
Yeah,
this is fun.
Thanks.
It's like two old friends chatting.
Yeah, we've been having too much fun just chatting pre-show. So we're like, we better turn the mics on and just get going.
We recorded like 2 podcasts before the podcast.
Yeah, I know. Derek, I hope you've been recording. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background on Jennifer, she is an entrepreneur and creative. Mm-hmm. She hosts her own podcast, Jennifer Allwood Show, which just hit 2 million downloads. Amazing.
It did. Weird, right?
Yeah. Well, you jumped on the podcast train early. Like you saw it coming.
Yeah. There's so much pressure though for your podcast to go like really big, really quick. Like I see other people who like, top 100 in the first 2 months. I'm like, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
And so it's taken a hot minute to get to 2 million downloads. We've been doing it 2.5 years. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good job.
Thanks.
I'm proud of you. That's really an awesome achievement.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Says a lot about the good content you're putting out there. So
most of them are probably my mom and my husband, but no, I'm kidding.
They're still great.
Thanks for listening, guys.
I know. She started and ran her own decorative painting business, the Magic Brush. Sorry.
Yes.
And has since transitioned to an online business, and now is a business coach.
Yeah.
And then also recently wrote a book.
I did. Yeah. So in the year 2000, I started the company, The Magic Brush in Kansas City. I love that we're both in Kansas City. And so we did, faux finishing. Did you ever have any faux finishing in your house? Like
no,
decorative
but
painting?
I cleaned houses a long time ago, and the houses I cleaned had all the beautiful.
Wow, girl, look how far we have both.
I know,
man.
I remember the beautiful.
Yes, and I used to work in all the beautiful houses with the decorative painting, and just think, gosh, I can't even imagine what it must be like to live.
Yes,
in a house like this, and so life is fun. But yeah, so I did that. I owned that company for 17 years.
Yeah,
and we got to do like 3 episodes with Extreme Home Makeover with Ty Pennington. Both when Ty and I were much younger then. We both times were simpler. We were younger, but that was really cool. I got to go to Belize with a client who wanted me to look at painting their condo in Belize. So that was really cool. And it was really cool until it really wasn't anymore, which was probably about 6 years ago when I realized I'd kind of capped my income, if that makes sense. Like I couldn't really make much more money. I had always run my business while staying at home with the kids.
Yeah.
So it was really weird. I started this painting company, and then right after I started the painting company, I got pregnant with our oldest son, Noah. And I was like, I will do anything to stay home with this baby. I don't want to put him in childcare. I just want to stare at him all day long. But I didn't want to give up the business that I had just started less than a year before that. So I thought, okay, what can I do? Well, I hired my sister-in-law to come paint for me. And then I hired another girl to come paint for me. So I literally sat at home and nursed and burped babies and had, at the end of my career, I had 8 women painting every day in houses, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But I found out a couple things. A, I don't like managing women that much, at least not in a service industry.
Yeah.
And that B, unless I hired a bunch more women, how are we going to make much more than kind of what we had gotten to? And the truth was I really wanted to make more money, which I know sounds really shallow, but also I know a lot of women feel the same way. They're just afraid to say it out loud.
Yeah.
So I decided to start teaching people how to paint their own house on the internet. And like, I don't know if you remember when I was doing like painting videos and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it was really weird because I thought, well, I wonder if anybody will actually even like buy these videos.
Yeah.
But we sold like $100,000 worth of videos in just over a year. And I was like, wait a minute, this internet thing, this was almost a decade ago. I'm like, this internet thing is really interesting. And so I really started to build a social media following. And at this point we have 500,000 followers on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest. And because I was really growing all my social medias, people kept asking me, well, how are you doing that? And you and I were just talking about the Enneagram, and we're both Enneagram 3s. And as an Enneagram 3, I'm like, well, for the first couple of people that asked me how I was building my social media, I'm like, well, I'll tell you. And then the next couple of people, I'm like, wait a minute, I have worked really hard at this and I'm not going to do it for free. So I started coaching women on how to use social media to grow their small business. And so that's what I've been doing the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And That's been really, really a good thing. So I coach a couple thousand women every month.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So fun. I love it.
That's
Shut the painting business down and bada boom, bada bing. Here we are.
just on to the next thing.
Just on to the next thing. Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, time to write a book.
Well, it's the interesting thing about the book is I always thought I was going to write a book about DIY projects because I had blogged. You and I have been blogging for like 9 million years. Like I was blogging before blogging was even cool.
Yeah.
I was blogging back when it was like a blog is a diary. Do you remember that? You like, you just type your feelings out and then somehow you send it through. What was even that thing? It was like some reader thing.
Yes.
And oh, they were
goes
not pretty.
An email.
Yeah, it was so lame-o. And yet people read it. And so I blogged for so long and I thought, well, I could take years of blog posts about painting and decorating and DIY and just put it into a book and surely it'll be a bestseller. And no, that doesn't really happen like that. But I had an agent approach me a couple of years ago and she said, Jennifer, you have a huge social media following, which is kind of one of the criteria that a traditional publishing house wants if they're going to give you a contract for a book. And she said, so I'd love to talk to you about writing a book. And I'm like, well, I would love to write a book. And she said, so tell me your thoughts. And I said, well, a few years ago, I wanted to write a book. I was going to call it Hot Mess, not your typical DIY book. And as you know, we have a lot of kids. I don't think I have as many kids as you, though. I think you win. We have
5.
Yeah, I have 4. So you win.
Yeah. It's still a lot of kids. You have 2 dogs. I only have 1. So, you know, it's just
one of my kids is really high maintenance. So it kind of counts as 2 in a
way.
way.
I feel like a lot of kids is a lot of kids.
A lot of kids is a lot of
Plus
kids.
a business.
Yes. And so on the cover of my Hot Mess book was going to be my daughter Ava, who I had this picture of her like wearing a tutu. She was probably 3 or 4 years old. She was standing on a bar stool in my living room and she had taken my living room, which was really pretty and had been photographed for magazines and things. She turned it into like, you know, this fort camp with all these blankets everywhere. And she was carrying one of her brother's fake swords and she was standing up on top of a bar stool with her little tutu. And I thought, this is the cover of my book. It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
And then when the agent approached me, she's like, so do you want to do that book? And I'm like, yeah, no. And she's like, well, alrighty then. Well, do you want to do a business book since you're a business coach? And I'm like, nope, don't want to do that either. And she's like, okay, so what do you want to write a book about? So we really sat down and had to flesh out. I never know, by the way, if it's flush out or flesh out. Do you know?
I think flush.
Flush like the toilet.
I think so.
Not flesh like your skin.
Right.
Okay. So we fleshed it. We fleshed out the idea. And I told her, like, if I'm going to leave something here on this side of heaven, because a book is really weird. It feels really permanent. Like everything else that I've done, I feel like I can delete a Facebook Live. I can delete a podcast. I can, you know, kind of go back on things. But once you've got a book that's in print, like there's no take backs.
I agree.
You know what I mean? It's kind of permanent.
Someone's going to find that in a bookstore someday.
Exactly. And so that felt really big and heavy. And I'm like, okay, what would I want to write it on? And the one thing that I know to be true in all the business coaching that I've done is that women everywhere struggle with fear, and they struggle with fear on a lot of different levels, about business, about life, about marriage, about kids. And so we decided to write a book, or I decided to write a book about fear. So it's called Fear is Not the Boss of You, because we all feel it.
Yeah.
Just what I notice to be one of the common things between women who are successful at life and business and those that aren't are the ones that let fear kind of stop them. So that's what the book's about.
Yeah. And I have been digging into it. You sent it to me
Thank you.
a couple months ago, and I've been reading it and chewing on it. And
Thanks.
I feel like, A, I've learned we have so much in common. And B, also, you have pushed you've pushed through so many things that still terrify me. And so I just was so inspired.
Oh,
and also like, oh no, am I going to have to do that too?
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, I think you're right. I think that is the thing that makes the difference, is that like the people who are willing to push past the fear, like that's the only thing that makes the difference.
Anyway. Yeah. Because my personality is really one to I'm a people pleaser.
Yes.
And so I tend to, be the girl that I want everybody to like me. And I don't want to push through anything really.
Yeah.
But yet as a Enneagram 3, I'm wired just to like, think, what is the meaning of all this life? Like, what is, and so it's very conflicting on the inside, being a people pleaser and yet wanting to leave this world a better place than what I found it. And so, well, that's kind of a weird way to say it, but it's just, wanting to make a mark on the world and wanting to help people. And so those are it's an inner tension to hold. And so thank you for reading the book, because it was my baby. And I'm like, writing a book really feels like having a baby. It's like, you just finally get to the point where you're like, fine, just get it out into the world. I mean, the whole time you're like talking about it and it's all great. And then you're like freaked out because it's about to hurt. And by the way, birthing a baby during a pandemic, I would never recommend. Like, it's just, it's just the absolute worst.
Well, because your book came out in April, right in the middle of the pandemic, which messed up all your
Yeah.
best laid plans.
Yeah, we had a 12-city book tour around the United States planned, which I was super excited about. And we were doing, I was doing live television in most of those cities. And I love live TV. It's like my absolute favorite. It's so weird. I used to think that, why do I like having my picture taken? Why do I like being on TV? Something must be wrong with me. It's not that I think I'm cute. It's not that. But that's the story I used to tell myself, like something must be wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like nobody likes having their picture taken. Nobody likes being on TV. I actually love it. I kind of come alive on television. And it's just, and it's so great when you kind of finally figure out like how God wired you for certain things.
Yes.
And for the things that you're really called to, in life. And that's kind of really cool because I couldn't do what I do if I didn't mind being on camera. You know what I mean?
So true.
And so, it was a disappointment that the 12-city book tour was canceled. The TV was canceled. 2,200 bookstores were closed across the United States.
Tragic.
But check this out. We did not hit New York Times bestselling list, which, by the way, you can still do that at any point. So, if your millions of listeners all go out and buy a book, you just never know what will happen. But we did hit Publishers Weekly and Washington Weekly at number 15. It's a list of 15 top books for the week, right behind Carrie Underwood. She was number 14 and we were number 15. And all I could think, Callie, was, okay, I'm this close to Carrie Underwood. Like, can I catch her legs? Like, you know what I mean? I'm like,
you're like,
you just impart those sighs to me, like when I'm this close to her,
touching her.
Oh my gosh! So anyway, so that was kind of a fun thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and it's such a great message, and it's just resonated so much with me because fear is something I talk about on the podcast a lot. Like I naturally am terrified of so many things.
Me too. I'm scared of my shadow.
I'm scared of like everything,
Yes.
and that's what I was telling my mindset coach like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, don't tell anybody how scared I am of like everything I do.
Yes.
Like even like. Honestly, like even asking you to be on the podcast to me was like intimidating. Like just like
Really?
asking people to like do things for me or like stepping out of my comfort zone to like we just hired somebody this week that I'm like really excited about, but it took like so much guts for me to like to make that happen. And she's like, but you're doing it anyways, Kylie, but you're doing it anyways. And like that's the difference. And
I talk about guts. Did you get to that chapter yet?
Yes.
Where I talk about guts. We were in, okay, let me think of the name of the town. Seaside, Florida. Have you ever been? Remember we used to be able to travel, Kylie?
I know. Remember when?
I got a plane to places that were beautiful.
Someday.
Okay, so Seaside is magical. One thing I will never forget about Seaside is they have a grilled cheese truck.
Okay.
Other people are remembering like the
go.
beach and stuff. I remember the grilled cheese truck. It's like gourmet grilled cheese out of a food truck. Girl.
Okay, grilled cheese is my love language.
Right,
so
it's everything. Okay, so go to Seaside. So we're in Seaside and we're in this posh little boutique. And I remember seeing the sign and I took a picture of it and I talk about this in the book and it just said, "God, give me guts." And I just remember thinking that because I think that so many women, including myself, for a long time have waited until we feel confident.
Yes.
Before we do things.
I like starred the crap out of that.
That chapter.
Like,
well, I know that chapter, it's very controversial because it talks about the difference between confidence and courage.
Yes.
And I basically talk about how so many women are waiting until they feel a certain way before they like stand up for their life and before they do things that they really want to do and they take chances on themselves and, they put forth things in the world that they really want to and they're waiting until they feel confident about it, but you're never going to feel confident when you haven't done it.
Yeah.
It's like asking your little kiddo to feel confident about walking and they've never walked before. Like, how are you going to feel confident about something you've never done?
Yeah.
So I took a picture of that, God give me guts. And that's a really dangerous prayer, by the way. It's kind of like when you pray for patience and then you get cut off in traffic, like within 10 seconds. You know, it's like that.
Yes.
So, whenever I think about that, God give me guts, I'm like, and I keep being put in situations where, it takes a lot of guts to step up to the plate.
Yeah. You said courage is contagious in there, and that's something that like we have on our website right now. And like,
good.
That's just like, I do feel like, even with just like, like earrings, like big earrings, like there's just so many women who like our customers have like seen their friends wear the big earrings. And it's like, oh my gosh, well, you can do that. I can do that too. And it's like,
are you fascinated by how many women think they can't do something like wear a pair of big earrings?
It's amazing. Just that
what
little
rule
thing.
book are you following?
Yes, but it's a really strong rule book. Like it's a very strong box that a lot of women sit in that says, I can't do that, or I can't be that, or I can't wear that. And like it's fascinating that like getting outside of the box and being able to break free of just saying I can wear that or I can get that haircut is almost all it takes to like then have the guts to do the next thing. And so that chain reaction has just been amazing. So that was one of the things I think in your book, you talk a lot about all the different things, lots of things you've done over the years that have taken courage. But I wondered, like, what's one of the things you think that was your first, catalyst to like get to courage? Because like you're the Jennifer Allwood
Oh,
now,
you're so
and
sweet.
like I see you as like fearless and bold, and like you
I
do
don't
what
know.
God tells you to do,
I'm
and
sucking
like
my thumb in a corner half the time.
right. That's not what anybody sees. They
Yeah.
see this book and they
Right.
see, and so it's like, well, how did she get there? Like
Yeah.
how, like what did it take? What was the first thing, or like?
One of the first major things I can remember doing that I was really scared to do was moving to Kansas City, because I grew up in a really tiny town in Iowa. You know, population 1,200, graduating class 44 people.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And so I moved to Kansas City when I was 19, and I
Okay.
moved here with a friend, and I didn't know anyone. And so that really was like the first thing, because I was thinking about that question, like what was one of the first things you remember doing that took a lot of courage? And I'm like, that kind of took some guts to move to
Yeah.
a big city where
Yeah.
you didn't know anybody, and I didn't have like a job lined up. It was just kind of a, well, I'm young and dumb and let's go for it. And you know,
That's
and,
part of it.
right? And gosh, it's
That
just
helps.
to go back to being young and dumb again. I mean, I'm like, God
It
bless
really
the
helps.
kids. I love it. So that's one of the things I can remember. But you know that my Christian faith is really, you know, a big deal for me. And
Yeah.
so I'm constantly feeling like, even if I'm scared, if I feel like it's something God's wanting me to do, like
Yeah.
my heart is always to be obedient
Yeah.
to, you know, my faith and to God. And so I'm like, well, even if I'm scared, like he must think that I must be able to do it.
Yes.
I think he's wrong, you know. And so I have an internal wrestling match with God all the time about what I think I'm capable of, what I actually want to do versus what I think he wants me to do. And I was telling somebody the other day, like sometimes I feel like life is just like one giant wrestling match, just
Yeah.
trying to get over my own crap and get out of my own way,
Yeah.
and not self-sabotage and do the things God's asking me to do in a really good way, but not just like, you know, be in a corner crapping my pants half the time. Like that's
Oh.
like, this is my life. I'm like,
Yes.
he keeps asking me to do things that feel so big and so hard. And I'm like, you know who you're talking to, right? Like I'm the girl that doesn't want to make any waves. She doesn't like drama of any kind.
Yeah.
I really like stability. I'm a high S on the DISC personality profile. Like I like things to be consistent and to know what's expected.
Yeah.
And so when you decide to be an entrepreneur, to put a book out in the world, to, you know, do a lot of speaking and things like we've been talking about, I mean,
Yeah.
you kind of throw all of that comfort like out the window.
Yeah.
So I've, in the recent years, just really learned to just really start being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good on the other side of it, though. I mean,
Yeah.
look at all the things that you've said yes to that you were scared.
It's so true.
And now you're like ruling the world. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Also feeling exactly like you said, though, like
Yes.
it doesn't go away. And I
Right.
think that's a really good message for women to
Mhm.
hear, is just like, that feeling doesn't go away.
It
The
doesn't.
uncomfortable doesn't go away. You
Yeah.
just get used to it, or
Yeah.
you just say, fine, that's just the norm. Like
Right.
every single time I feel asked or called, or
Mhm.
something hard gets put in my way, like it's never going to feel
Yeah.
like easy, or like I want to
Mhm.
do that. It's like
A lot of times I've come to even recognize that as a sign that that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because it's usually
Yeah.
the things, you know, that I'm like, crap.
Yes.
Really, God? Are you serious? Like, it's usually
Yes.
those things that I'm like, no. My flesh is like, I don't want to do it. I'm scared. I feel nervous.
Yes.
Feels too big. Feels too hard. Makes me feel very vulnerable. I don't like feeling vulnerable. That's
Yeah.
a feeling that
Yeah.
that I hate feeling. Like, it's a feeling I hate feeling. Vulnerability is not something that I love.
Yeah.
And yet it's also one of the things that I feel like makes my social media kind of good, is because I try to be really vulnerable with people, because one of the things that I want to do is make other women feel like you are not alone in all your weird feelings. The rest of us are out here feeling the same way.
Yes.
It's just that we're putting one foot in front of the other and not getting stuck.
Yeah.
The first line of Fear's Not the Boss of You was actually being stuck sucks.
Yes.
And my publisher was like, Jen, honey, this is a Christian book. You can't say sucks. And I'm like, yeah, but no other word really. So it actually now is being stuck stinks. And I'm like, fine, I'll say it. Being stuck stinks. But you know, so many women who have fear about different things, they allow themselves to get stuck.
Yes.
And then it's hard to get up the momentum to get going again. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like when you fall off of a diet and you go clear the opposite direction. And it's so much easier just to like get back on the horse, you know, the very next day. And you know what I mean? And get some momentum going again.
Yeah. I think like the only way through it is through it.
Is right
Like,
through it.
You have to just keep going through it. And
Yes.
I think that's something that I don't know how or when I adopted it, but it's just like there's only like the only way is forward. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to stay stuck. It feels worse to stay stuck. It feels like
Yes.
progress is the only thing that feels good.
Yeah.
Even though it feels crappy, through the progress can feel crappy. It can feel uncomfortable. It can feel painful. It can feel like
Yeah.
The vulnerability doesn't feel good, but stuck feels worse.
Stuck feels way worse. And usually when you're stuck with other stuck people.
Yes.
And then, you know, they don't want to see you get unstuck because that's really convicting.
Yes.
And so that's always an interesting dynamic when you decide you want to change your life, change your business, change the way maybe your family's done something forever. And you'll feel the resistance from the friend group around you or your family members.
Yeah.
And you'll think, okay, then you start second guessing yourself. Okay, I must be out of my mind. They're probably right. And a lot of times people who really love you will say things that's very passive aggressive. Like, you know that I work with business owners every day. And I see all the time business owners who have family members who say things like, so how's that little business going?
Yes.
You know, things like that. And that just feels like such a slam. And it's those sorts of things from people who are also stuck, who are trying to kind of keep you in the pit with them.
Yeah.
That is so counterproductive to getting unstuck.
Yeah, that was one of my parts that I really liked about the book. And I feel like I've experienced, or I wanted to ask you about, is just like people who don't want to let you evolve, or people who are intimidated by your evolution. Like, I think when you decide to become unstuck, or you decide, hey, I'm going to go after the me or the potential that I have. Like, I really am passionate about women finding their potential, finding who their true self is. Like, who are they meant to be, and what is their calling meant to be? And I love that you're very like, you know, for some women it's motherhood, and for some women it's this. For some women it could be a myriad of things, but we all have to be open to what that is. And most of us are stuck in a box saying like, well, for my mom it was this, so that must mean it's this for me. Or my friends are all this, so I can't be anything else. And then your friends and your family keep you stuck there.
Yeah,
and
it's hard when you don't have a model. You know what I mean?
That's how I felt. I felt like I don't have a model for what I'm doing.
Right.
And so it's really hard.
Right. You're a pioneer. You're going first.
So hard to be the pioneer.
Yeah. So one of the sayings I have in the book is the first one through the window always gets bloody. and it's true.
Yes.
I mean, the first one in your family to do a lot of things will always be the one that takes the brunt of the harm and the hurt.
Yeah.
But then it's so much easier for other people to crawl out the window right behind you.
Yeah.
And you know, when it comes to friends and family, there's a part of the Bible where it talks about how Jesus couldn't even prophesy in his hometown. Like like in his hometown, he was not well received, which sometimes I think, I don't, you know, in today's world, that looks like not necessarily your hometown, but sometimes the people closest to you. It's harder for them to think, okay, what's Jennifer doing? Like, I went to high school with her. Like, I know her. Or, you know, I have lots of brothers. I have 2 brothers and 4 stepbrothers. And sometimes I wonder, like, what do they think? Because I'm like the dumb big sister that they were telling them to go make macaroni and cheese. You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes it's harder when the people that we're closest with, you know, are not super supportive of whatever we're wanting to do. And, you know, this is, I think, a lot of times why women will keep themselves stuck, or if they've got something that they're doing, Kylie, they'll keep it small.
Yes.
It's like self-sabotaging to self-protect, because nobody wants their relationships to change. Nobody wants their, you know, to end friendships or have to put boundaries in with family. That feels really awkward and uncomfortable. And so I do write in the book that I've noticed this theme also, that if a woman has been through any amount of trauma in her life, and by the way, trauma doesn't necessarily have to mean like, you know, something huge, like you know, lost a sibling, or trauma can be, you know, having a bomb dropped on you, you know, when you're a young kid, or seeing things that you shouldn't. There's lots of things. Since I'm raising a little girl, in the process of adopting a little girl who's come from trauma, I'm learning a lot about trauma. Yeah. And so what I've learned about trauma is that women who have experienced a lot of trauma, they are more likely to stay stuck than other women, because the unfamiliar is so scary to them. Yeah. And so like, this is why you'll see a girl who's in a bad relationship and you're like, girl, you know, he's horrible for you. Like, get out of that thing. And you're thinking, how is it not so obvious to her what a jerk he is and all the things? Well, she knows, but she's probably been through so much trauma that she would rather stay with the things that she knows, even though they're not good for her, but they're at least familiar, than to completely pivot and go in a different direction, which feels very vulnerable and very lonely. And so there's all sorts of reasons why women stay stuck. And so that's why I start off the book talking about being stuck. Yeah. I love that. I think that's a really great insight, and it does really speak to all of us, because the unfamiliar is so scary. I think if you're pushing through that, if you're going to the unfamiliar and you're getting resistance from people around you, like, that's double. Like, why do double hard? When you can't even see like what the end game's going to be. This is one of the reasons I think the coronavirus and, you know, pandemic and things is affecting people so hard emotionally. I talked about this on my own podcast about how a lot of us who, you know, we're normally like on our game, girl. I'm on the struggle bus some days because we've never been here before. We have nothing to go by. There's no model. It's not like we can go, well, the last time we were in, a pandemic where half the country, shut down or whatever. So sorry. That's not coronavirus. That's a sinus infection. But, we've never been here before as a country. And when you've never been someplace, it feels like so exposed and so vulnerable and so scary.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to feel scared.
Yeah. It's so hard to stay optimistic, even if you're typically pretty optimistic.
It is. Yes.
And then if you're surrounded by people who aren't optimistic or who are trying to pull you down, it's like, it's really hard to make progress.
The struggle bus is really full at the moment.
It really is.
It really is.
Totally get
yes.
Yes. Well, so what's your advice, I think, really for women? I think fear is really what we focused on here, but like right now, with the virus, with the world being weird, with women needing to, I think we all need to find our place right now. And there's still so many women who are in these situations of, I thought my kids were going to be able to go back to school, or like, what's my future hold? And you're coaching lots of them. Like, what are you kind of focusing on right now?
Well, and so I do business coaching. We are actually considering starting some life coaching. I think you're the first person I've ever said that aloud to.
Okay, don't tell anybody, guys.
Don't tell anybody, but just your podcast people. But we are in such a season of pivoting. Everybody's having to pivot. They're having to pivot everything. Like everything that we, used to know and believe to be true and worked in the past, it's different. So a lot of my business owners, they're having to switch. A lot of brick and mortar people are having to just switch to online. A lot of people who've been just playing for a while, now they actually have to make some money because their husband just lost his job. It's like there's a season of pivot. People are having to figure out how to run a business from home and also how to homeschool. Yeah. And so there's just so much, change going on. And so there's a couple of pieces I would have for advice. If you're a person of faith, like get on your face before the Lord. Like number one, do that. Number two, keep the news off. Like I know that sounds like, oh, I can't do that. I need to be informed. No, your sister will inform you. Your best friend will inform you. Facebook will double inform you.
And stay off of there too, though.
Stay off of there too. I teach people how to get a huge Facebook following, and I'm like, but stay off of it.
I know.
But stay off of it because it's just it ends up just gnawing at my soul. Because when I get on social media, when I watch the news, I instantly think, okay, the whole world's going to heck in a handbasket. Like what's the point? Why even bother with whatever today? Because this thing's all going down in flames. So I have to keep the news off, and just be really careful of what I'm allowing to go into my brain, and really focus on just the things that really matter right now, which, for me, I know like my mental health is at utmost importance. And married to my husband, we've got 4 kiddos, one getting ready to leave to go to college, and then another one who's a kindergartner. So we've got the full spectrum here, Kylie.
Yes.
But really trying to help them walk through all the things they're going through mentally as well, because these kids are being so affected by the world changing. And it's I refuse to call it the new normal, because it's not normal. Like walking around in masks and all of us staying in our home, and not being able to be together. It's not normal. It's not the normal that at least I picture the world in. And so really just trying to be attentive to the needs of my family right now is of utmost importance to me. And, there's lots of people that were saying on social media, this is the time to be starting a business, and this is the time to be, taking care of yourself physically. And yes, that all matters, but the mental state of all of us right now, I think it will be years and years and years before we realize some of the ramifications that this 2020 has had on a lot of us emotionally and mentally.
Yeah, I love that. I think that all really resonates with me too, because I've been feeling like my screen time has been up.
Oh, 100%.
So much.
Yes.
Like literally, I think I can measure it back to like when coronavirus, news updates started hitting. And this last week, I'm like, I've got to stop. Like this is weighing on me so much. And
you can't take all of that in and not just feel heavy.
It's really weighing me down. Like I can feel it. I can feel it in my shoulders. I can feel it physically.
Yes.
And I can't be there for my kids, and like my business has to continue on.
Right.
I'm the steward of that. I'm the steward of my family, and I have to like be there for them. And just because the world seems like it's going to hell in a handbasket, like I can't let that happen to my business. So there are things I can focus on. There are things I can do every day for both of those.
Yeah.
If I just only focus on those instead of like, well, what's happening and what's all the, there's just I think there's a good reason to have like a big perspective. And I think that's probably where you're saying, go to your faith and go to God and let him have the big perspective. And then just like keep your
turn
perspective
the rest of
really
it
small
off.
otherwise.
Yes. Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was telling her that I've noticed this like underlying anger in myself right now, where I'm usually not easily, it's hard to pick a fight with me. I just, that's not who I am. Now, you and I were talking before about our husbands being Enneagram 8s. Like my husband loves to pick a fight, me not so much, but I feel like this like almost this underlying anger that's just like right below the surface and that is easily triggered right now. And I'm like, this is not who I am. But I think that underlying anger is because I'm just consuming too much information. I'm reading too many articles. I'm watching the news too much. I'm on Facebook more than I'm in my Bible. Like, I think like for me, and the Lord really convicted me one day, I want you in the Word of God more than you are on the news, more than you're consuming that. And because what you consume eventually consumes you. And I've told my kids since they were little, crap in, crap out. And you can't continue to take in, not that all the news is crap, but you can't continue to take in all of that, stuff that's so heavy and so negative and not expect it to somehow affect you. So.
I think the voices that you hear the most are the ones that you internalize, and that's what you repeat in your mind. And so that I had the same thought the other day, because I was just like, what do I think is winning? What do I think is going to win out here? Like, I think what I'm listening to is the fear and the scare and all those messages I don't even believe in. I don't even believe in that scare, the scarcity, the fear, all those things are going to win out. But if that's all I listen to, like, of course that's what is going to take over all of my thought patterns. So I am totally with you there.
I have to really guard my mind right now.
So I think that's great advice.
And my mouth and my fingers. There's a lot of like typing something on Facebook and then delete. I was telling the women in my coaching group the other day, I was telling them, you don't have to show up for every argument you're invited to on social media. Like rarely does anybody change anybody's mind. And so just keep scrolling, get off of it. Like it's not worth engaging in some of the things, even if you want to. It's just, it's better to spend those efforts and that energy on something that will actually make a difference.
And I think that we were talking about that earlier, but I think that's really great insight that you like to just realize you have a choice. Like you can step back. You don't have to be involved in everything. You don't have to speak about everything. You don't have to share an opinion about everything, even if the world says it wants you to. And I think right now we're being like commanded by I don't know who to have an opinion about everything and to show up everywhere. And it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. It is exhausting. I read this saying one time that I want to be famous in my own home. I thought, oh, that's so good. And so I think about that every once in a while when I'm seeing, the arguments on social media and people giving their opinion to every single thing. And I'm like, you know what? There's some places that my opinion I don't need to put it. So on social media about all the things is sometimes one of those places. And I'd rather just, have good conversations inside of my four walls of my home and be famous there and be known there. That makes sense?
Yeah, I love that.
Thanks.
And I think the other thing, like you talk in your book about, like that we all have our circles of influence as well, and that even if you don't know what those are, or you're not intentionally, like you don't have a huge following, or you do have a huge following, like what you do is being seen. So whether or not we like show up, guns blazing with like huge opinions, or we decide like, I'm going to be quiet and like go serve, or I'm going to like just try to be like level-headed about things, like that can be a good like
people are always
an
watching.
Important thing right now.
It really is. So. And I know we're not going out like we used to, but you still have neighbors, you still have people seeing what you're putting on social, you still have people that you're influencing, friends, family. And so that chapter is about just giving people something good to watch, because we all have an audience, even if it's just our children. We all have an audience, and they're watching to see how mom is balancing things right now, how she's reacting. It's fascinating how much kids look at their parents on how to like respond to things. You know what I mean? And my kids are a little bit older than yours, with our oldest one getting ready to leave for school, but it's still like, I know they're still watching to see how mom and dad respond to all the crazy. And so, we got to hide our crazy a little bit.
I know. And it's so easy to get distracted and to forget that that's who's really watching.
Yes, they really are. And I want to teach them well.
Well, I love all those messages and thoughts. And thanks. I think I really recommend everybody go read the book, Fear's Not the Boss of You, because you speak deeper on all of those topics in every one of these chapters.
Yeah,
so.
thanks. And it's really, like I said, it's not a business book. It's for women who are stuck, completely overwhelmed, or terrified to make a change in their life.
Yeah, it's really just about like getting out of your own way.
Yes, it is. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
The worst thing I read so far is that you've done a triathlon and you learned how to swim.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, God tricked me on that one, Kylie. It was,
how about I don't want to go down that road.
You know what?
Because I don't like swimming. I'm like,
I'd never put my head underwater before I was 39. Like 39 years old, I'd never put my head underwater.
I'm really proud of you, but I don't want to be proud of me in that way.
I know. It was really, I'm not lying. It was really, really hard. And so, but I knew that I had kids and I'm like, I don't want them to carry the same fear of water with them that I got from my parents.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be, just weird about being in a swimming pool like I am. And so I'm like, I've got to model this well for them. And so, all my kids are little fishes at this point, and I'm still, sputtering. And it's the weirdest thing. Like my face hits water and I just snort. I don't know what happens, Kylie. And I'm instantly thinking I'm drowning every time. But one of the great things about coronavirus, not that there's any great thing, but every triathlon has been canceled for this summer. And so I'm like, I don't have to do it. I don't have to go get scared in a lake somewhere, a pond somewhere, or a pool somewhere. And so,
I'm off the hook this
year.
So
I got a pass for 2020. But I talk about that, not because I'm an athlete, but just because God really used that just to show me that I can do hard things.
Yeah.
And basically what I talk about in the book is I've done 10 triathlons in the last 8 or 9 years, and I've had a panic attack in the water on every single one of them. And so sometimes I think that you think you're going to like overcome your fear and kick fear in the face. I don't even know what that means, but and you're going to get past it, and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just keep doing it in spite of.
Yeah.
So
which is a good lesson for all of us. I still sometimes feel like, oh, I've tried new things, check. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You got to keep doing it. So it's really inspiring. So thanks for
your whole story is inspiring. Your whole business is inspiring.
I
love what you're doing, encouraging women here.
Oh, thanks. We'll just keeping on, being scared and keeping going.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got some rapid fire questions for you, and then we'll finish up.
Sure.
Okay. What are you most proud of?
My kids.
Good answer.
Yeah.
What's the scariest thing you've ever done?
I would say can I say two things?
Sure.
Launching a book. That's really scary.
Yeah.
And two, the fact that we're adopting a little girl and will be approximately 600 years old before she graduates high school.
Just approximately.
No, for real. Like literally I'll be 62.
So awesome though.
Oh my gosh.
She's the cutest.
She is the cutest, but it's scary to, just knowing you're going to change your family dynamics, knowing everything about life is going to change. And it's the hardest but rightest thing that we've ever done as a family.
So awesome. Such a good example. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
I should have thought about that one. There's some saying, help me out here. It's something like, don't let people's opinions of you go too much to your heart or too much to your head.
I love it.
The people's opinions, that are like, they think you're horrible. Don't let that go to your heart. And the people that think you're so great, like, don't let that go to your head. I love that saying.
I do too, because it's so easy to do both of those.
Right. Yeah. And as a people pleaser, I'm constantly having to remind myself that people's opinions don't matter.
We're the same.
Yeah.
Have you done anything brave in the last week?
No. I don't think I have. In the last week? No, because we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. I've done nothing brave this week. Zero. Unless you're considering like staying out of the pantry where I just want to eat all the carbs. Like if that's bravery, that I'm here for it.
I think it's totally bravery.
Because I think there's seasons where we do brave things, and there's other seasons where we just try to stay above water.
I love that.
And right now I'm not in a season of like butt kicking and conquering the world. I'm in a season of trying to stay sane and trying not to eat all my feelings and trying to keep my family in a good place.
Well, you told me you're working less right now than you typically do, and I think that's honestly really brave, because that's you just choosing to be there for your family and like be where you need to be when you need to be there, instead of just like crushing ahead for like no reason. So I love that.
And it's interesting because there's so many people, who are good people in my industry who I'm watching them they're just crushing it right now. And I don't even care. I know that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But I'm working like less than 15 hours a week and running a multi 7-figure a year business, and I can do it staying really sane.
Yeah.
And it works well for my family at this point without pushing at all. And so there's times when I'm like, no, I got to push. Like, we got to double our revenue this year. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why do we have to double our revenue like this year? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can remember when the kids were little, and we did like mom's day outs, and I stayed home full time then, but we would take them to mom's day outs on occasion. And I can remember one time when my husband was doing real estate back when the real estate market crashed in like 2009. Those were fun times, by the way. Yeah, we were broke. And so I can remember like going back to work then like 3 days a week out painting while my husband stayed home with the kids for a couple months. And it was this interesting dynamic, Kylie. At 2 days a week, my family was still okay with mom being gone. And at 3 days a week, like it was like everybody was a donkey on the edge. It was just insane. It was like it tipped the whole thing. And so I had to scale it back to 2 days a week, which scaled back on the finances, but it made there be some sort of like peace in the house.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of peace in the house right now with me doing working the amount that I am. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I love that.
Thanks.
I think it's really brave that you listen to your heart like that.
Yeah.
all the
I
time.
mean, I know that, there may be another time when I want to conquer the world, but right now I don't. I just want to conquer dinner. And
that's hard to do.
Watching another movie with the kids. We watched this movie last night. My Friend Dahmer. I do not suggest about Jeffrey Dahmer.
Oh.
Yeah. But, we've watched more movies in the last 3 or 4 months than what we have in the last 3 or 4 years with the kids. And that's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
You can edit the Dahmer part out.
Hey, that's
People
real.
are going to be like, wait,
so real.
she loves Jesus and she watches Dahmer movies.
That's the reality.
It is.
What are you most excited about in the next 12 months?
Ooh.
That's like a typical question, but now that we're in COVID, I
Yeah.
don't know if that helps. Anything to look forward to?
Yeah, I'm anxious for the election to get done. Honestly, like I don't mean that like in a snarky way, but I'm anxious for it to be done just to hopefully we can bring back some sort of like just human decency on the internet.
Agreed.
And you know what I mean? Because everything gets really heightened at any election. Every election year it gets this way. So I'm anxious for that to be done. Our oldest is going to college and I'm anxious for that to happen for him, for my mama heart. I'm sure I'm just going to be ripped out of my chest, but
so exciting.
I'm excited for him, you know? And I'm like, okay, we've like, by the time they're 18, like my parenting's pretty much, it's been over for a minute. You know what I mean? Right now we're just like, praying that he remembers everything we've taught him and he does a good job. And so I'm excited to watch him go because he's excited. And our adoption of our little girl will be final. I'm super excited about that. Yeah, I'm super excited. It's been 2 years in the making. So,
well, you got good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. All right. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, quit caring so much about what other people think.
I love that.
100% of the time. I don't know what... I remember when I turned 40, you're still so young, but when you turn 40, something kind of clicks in you, I think. And I had other women tell me that and I'm like, and it really does. It really does. When you're 40, you're like, wait a second, my life is probably about halfway up.
Yeah. And
I just remember having these weird thoughts in my head, like, is what I'm doing even mattering? Like, what am I even here on the earth for? And I got to make this last half of my life like count. And the first half I was young and dumb, and then I was, tired from babies, and now I can like actually like
make a difference,
like put 2 brain cells together and have a thought, without somebody banging on the bathroom door. And so, I'm still a recovering people pleaser. Getting ready to turn 49, but I wish that I could go back and just really encourage my 18-year-old self to understand why it was so important at that young age to not be really manipulated by other people's thoughts and opinions.
That's been the number one answer to that question, and I would totally agree with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Most people say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit caring so much about what other people think.
Interesting.
It's so hard for us as women.
It is.
Which is why, it's like we're afraid. We're afraid of what other people think, which they don't even, like you say in your book, like no one cares about you as much as you think they do.
I know. Nobody's
right?
really
No
thinking
really
about you as much
you.
as you think that they are.
But we're
yeah.
all so worried that everybody thinks it's all about us.
Yeah.
It's not.
No. Yep. That'd be my final answer on that one.
I love that. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on today. It's so great to talk with you.
This is my first podcast in person.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I've made it.
Yeah.
Like I officially have made it.
I feel like I've made it because it's my first guest with such a great podcast and first author on the podcast.
Girl. Appreciate you.
It's good to have you on.
Thanks.
So. All right.
Take care.
Where can we find you? We can find you on...
Yeah. Any of the social media, since somebody's listening to a podcast, they could find my podcast if they just type in Jennifer Allwood. Yep. It's the Jennifer Allwood Show. What's your actual show called?
With Kylie Nichols.
That's what I thought. Okay. And I love that we're both just keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, don't you want a fancy name? Nah, it's too hard. So it's just Jennifer Allwood everywhere on social. If anybody wants to send me, a message or a DM or something, Instagram's the place to do that. That's my favorite.
Perfect. Then you can find her book on Amazon.
Yeah, find it on Amazon. It's on Target.com, Walmart.com. It's in Barnes & Noble if any of your listeners are able to actually walk into a store. And it's also at Books A Million. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks, girl. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for listening today to With Kylie Nichols. I hope that today you felt empowered to take one more step towards living the best version of you. Tune in next week for another episode, and in the meantime, you can find us elsewhere on the internet. You can find me on Instagram at Kylie Nichols and at Nickel and Suede. You can also find us at nicolandswade.com. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.